Hi, and today we have a very special guest for our Hope Lift, and it's Roy. Roy, welcome to you. And I just want to say a massive thank you because you are not Zoom familiar. You've not been using Zoom through these lockdowns. And so I salute you that you have climbed a mountain today and popped on Zoom to have a chat with me. So I'm so grateful. So we would love to hear your story. So let's make a start. So what was life like before you met Jesus for you, Roy?
Well, I would say that anyone brought up as a Christian would not believe the sort of life that I led. It was horrendous, really. At the time, I didn't know. I was just like anyone else, out in that world there. And life was all for me, all the time. And it was just horrendous. But I won't go into that. I don't want to go into that. If anyone wants to know how bad it was, if they need to know, I can tell them, but it was terrible. And anyway, that all changed. Things did change. I lived for 52 years with that out there, like that, in that world. And I saw so much and learned so much that is best forgotten. So then I met with Susan after a while, and well, lots of things happened, ups and downs, good and bad. All these things are happening, as like they do for anyone, you know. But then I found she was mixing with these weird people who called themselves Christians. Now, I didn't know anything about this. I mean, to be honest, I knew nothing about God or Jesus at all in my life. The only time I heard that word Jesus was at Christmas. But Christmas and Easter, to me, was just meant the pubs were open longer. That was all it meant, you know, and that's like so many people. So anyway, having met with Susan, I do believe the very first time I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit is I put my hand on her arm once and I just met her. And I felt something. And I'm sure it must have been the Holy Spirit. But we went on, and then we were in Littlehampton, and we had our house there, and she was going to a meeting with these Christian people, they called themselves, and I didn't know anything about it. But one day she said, the least you could do is come along on Sunday and look after the baby. By this time, we had a lovely little girl. So I thought, oh, well, I suppose I better go along. So I went along, and I thought I'll be somewhere at the back with a little baby. But I walked into this village hall, and it was packed with all these people in there. And I thought, oh, no. So I used the baby as a shield between me and them. And then they started singing, and then some guy was talking out on the stage. And okay, so had that Sunday morning and went away, and then the next Sunday cropped up and I went along, thought, you know, I can put up with it. And then I think the terminology is God did me for a kipper. I don't know.
But
I saw these words up on the screen and I thought, oh, I don't know what they mean or anything, but they were playing this music and I knew all the tunes. How I knew them, I don't know. And I'd always loved this singing in pubs. When in those days, you used to get in a pub and someone would get on the piano, you all start singing, and you know. And I really enjoyed singing in a group, so I started singing. And the angels must have been falling off the ceiling and laughing at me, what I thought about God, and I'm singing these songs, praising Him. Anyway, lots of things happened that I haven't really time to go into, you know. But it culminated in this whole thing of going to these meetings when this guy, and I will say his name, Mark Wilson, came up to me and he said, have you got a Bible, Roy? And I said, no. He said, well, look, why don't you take this and have a read, and maybe it'll help you. It helped me at the beginning. So I took the Bible and I thought, right. I took it back to sea with me because I worked in the Merchant Navy. And while I was away, I read it. Probably something other Christians haven't done. I read every printed word from the very beginning to the very end of the Bible.
Wow.
And I took it back to him. I said, "Here, Mike, is your book." And he said, "Well, what?" I said, "Well, I've read it." I said, "What a load of rubbish." I said, "That's..." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's all about killing and constant repetition. There's a few bits of sci-fi in there. It's nothing to me." And he took it. But then everyone started in this place, started getting excited about there was going to be a meeting on the Downs in Sussex of all the Christians. And I thought, Well, we had a motor caravan at the time, and I thought, perhaps we could have a good holiday here, because we could go up there for a week and I could take the little girl on the carrier on my back and head off down the footpaths, because in Sussex, they're very hot on keeping all the footpaths open. So I thought, right, that's what I'll do. Well, that's fine until in the morning, the first morning, this guy, this Mark Wilson guy again, came along and he said, "Right, what are you going to today, Roy?" I said, "Oh, I'm going for a walk, Mark." He said, "No, you can't do that." He said, "Well, he said, you've got to come along to something." And I, oh dear, all right then, Mark, yes, I will. He said, "Right, well, Terry Virgo's doing a thing on the Lord's Prayer. I'm going to go to that." So I said, "All right then." So I went along and I didn't know anything. And he picked up another guy on the way, and we went into this place, and Terry Virgo started to do his thing on the Lord's Prayer. And he only got as far as talking about our Father in heaven. And he stopped and he said, "Now, God is telling me that there's one or maybe two or three people in here who have a problem with their father." And he said, "I'm going to pray for you now." He said, "I don't want anyone to get up, don't want anything of that at all. I'm just going to pray for you now." And he started praying. And all I can say is, it felt as though something exploded inside of me from deep, deep, deep down where I'd never been. It was like an explosion, and something burst out. Now, I knew nothing more of that meeting, how long it went on for. The next thing I remember is sitting on a bench with these other two guys, and the tears just keep coming down. And I can't talk to them, and they're trying to talk, and they've got a few little tears coming down as well. So I went back to the van, and there's Susan and my daughter, and every time she spoke to me, every time I opened my mouth, I just started to cry. And I have not too much of a remembrance of that rest of that day, but I went to the evening meeting and in the big tent, and I can't remember a lot about it, but what I do remember, I got into my bed, snuggled down in my sleeping bag, and I was totally confused. And then I know people have said to me since it couldn't have been God, but I know God spoke to me. His voice, he said, just simply, "It's all right, my son. It's all right." And I felt a sense of peace, incredible at these words. It was just amazing. And I got up in the morning, and the first thing I've got to have a Bible. Anything inside of me, you must get a Bible, must get a Bible. Anyway, we were a bit short on the pennies in those days, and Susan said, "Oh, yes, that'll be all right." She was, well, you need to talk to her about how she felt about that. And I got hold of the Bible, and it was amazing. The Holy Spirit took me through the Bible, and it was fantastic, really fantastic. And we went back home, and it was amazing that as I went through into the town, this dull seaside place, it was all bright and shiny. it was marvelous. And then I went to the shops, and the people were all different. They were totally different. And ever since then, well, at that time, all the miracles started happening. Incredible miracles, one after the other. It was amazing. It was a good couple of hours talk about what happened, all the things that happened. But it was just marvelous. And all I know is I feel the Holy Spirit leads us, and as far as I'm concerned, do what Jesus did and let the Holy Spirit lead. And that's it. That's what happened.
That's absolutely amazing, Roy. And I just feel your sense of just joy and the difference, like you said there, about how it's almost like you were living in the dark and Jesus, through the Holy Spirit, has put you in the light. Yes. How amazing is that? So how is your faith now? Does it still feel like that?
Yes, it still feels like that. I just feel, well, take the Bible, for instance. I thought it locked down, well, yes, there's one thing to do, start at the beginning in the Bible again and read the Bible. Well, I've got as far as Luke, I think. I've read all the rest. Well but done. It's all, as I'm reading, it's new stuff all the time. And I found that with the Bible all the time. And it's the Holy Spirit that's showing me things that it didn't show me before, I mean, I could load myself up with all the knowledge and be able to quote the Bible, which many people can, but that isn't what Jesus wants. Jesus wants you to just do what he did, and that's it. That's how it is.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled. Yeah. That's so good, Roy. And I think one thing that we try and do with these Hope Lifts is leave people with a story of how, following Jesus in your life, where there was a time where you felt completely hopeless, because of your faith in God, you had an experience where there was hope. Now, you mentioned the word miracles a little while ago. So is there one that you could just share with us in the time that we have left, just to show that there is always hope with God?
Yeah, well, forgiveness is one of the things that, right, I better tell you, when I was 6, and there was a war on, and I found I no longer had a mum and a dad, okay? And I blamed my father. There was a lot went on, but I always blamed him. But then God touched me, and I knew I had to forgive him for what had been. And it was amazing. My whole attitude to life changed when I forgave him. He used that. God used that. Forgive all the time, and to lead a forgiving life, because previously I was just me. There was no one else mattered other than me, And I find now there's, but miracles. Well, we filled the house with junkies, to be honest. We miraculously found ourselves with a 5-bedroom townhouse we owned in Littlehampton. Well, we had all these spare rooms, and we just filled them up with these junkies as they came along. And to see the Holy Spirit drop on one of these as he was in the house as we were talking to him.
Wow.
Just things like that happening. And then, one came in to end my life, actually. That was his intention.
Wow.
When I realised that, I said, well, Jesus, inside of me, I said, Jesus, I thought I was doing the right thing here. And this guy just, I'm so tired. And he just flopped back and sat in a chair and went to sleep.
Wow.
Just Jesus will always be there to help. He's always there. He just, is. You know, and just call on Jesus anytime anything goes wrong, anything happens, you know. And I've learned so much. I still learn all the time, you know. It happens. It just happens.
Yeah. And you know, that's something for all of us, isn't it? Whether we're Christians or not. You know, it's a journey. And if somebody has started that journey of thinking, maybe, is there a God? Isn't there a God? You know, listening to your story just, to me, speaks of a God who is definitely there and is reachable. And like, you know, it doesn't matter how dark your situation is, then there is always hope. So, Roy, it has been an absolute pleasure to spend time with you this morning. I am so grateful for you just spending this time with us. And I get the feeling we might hear from you again.
Just say one thing about that with God. Having become a Christian, I became aware that God was there all the time, all through the dark time. He was there. And I can tell you stories about that too sometime.
Great.
He was always there.
Yeah, we would love to hear that.
Right, try then.
Okay, bless you. Thank you, Roy. Let's say goodbye to all those lovely listeners out there. And thank you for tuning in. Okay, bye for now.
Yeah, okay. Well, if anyone wants to know anything else, you know where I am. Bye. Bye-bye.